Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel and Happy New Year. My name is Wonki and I'm assistant professor of saxophone at Montana State University. Today, I'm really excited to share with you a new series called Masterclass, where I'm going to introduce and dig down deep of each pieces and show you how I could create my own interpretation using analysis and historical backgrounds and all sorts of musical knowledge, and I want to get to really deep with each saxophone repertoire. Today I'm going to share with you everybody's favorite using Bozza's Aria. I also recorded this piece years ago in my album called Air Songs for Saxophone. So you could check that recording or watch my YouTube video of the performance. But I want to share with you step by step and how I construct my own interpretation that's going to be compelling. And this is a new series that I've been planning, and I'm going to add major pieces like Crescent Sonata or Dukruk Sonata, or if you have like specific requests, I'm happy to include it. So please make sure to subscribe and make sure to leave a comment. Also, I've started new membership channel in this YouTube channel. So in the membership, you get to watch all my videos ahead of time than everybody else. And on top of that, these masterclass videos, if you want to watch the whole thing, I welcome you to join my membership, because I wanted to create a community where the listener and people who love this music and this saxophone are really dedicated. So I wanted to create this like dedicated saxophonist community in my channel. So that's my goal with this membership. Now on top of that, with the top tier membership, I'm going to start uploading my own lesson videos with my students on a weekly basis, so that you get to be observer and you get to learn what we do in a higher education as well. So consider subscribing, consider becoming a membership as well. Now, Bozza's Aria, obviously everybody's favorite, one of the most beautiful pieces written for saxophone and piano. And when we approach any music, the first step is always to really get to know about the composer and the background of this piece. Why was this piece composed? When was this composed? And whom this piece was composed for? Or what's the style? What's the musical technique that composer is using? All these details really matters to create your own interpretation. So let's start with using Bozza. He's obviously a French composer, and French composer of the 20th century. He was born 1905 and passed away in 1991. So I was born 1989, so thankfully I'm a little bit overlapped with using Bozza. He was a very prolific composer. He wrote a lot of music for wind instruments, but he dedicated his life to really compose for chamber music. There's a various different sources of why this piece was composed. One source that I came across was that after winning Prix de Rome, which is one of the most important competitions for composers at the time, he stopped writing, but he was supposed to produce a piece. So a friend of him reminded him, you have to write something. And quickly, he wrote this Bozza Aria. Originally, probably for cello and piano. There's a version for clarinet and piano and flute and piano. But also this aria was dedicated to Marcel Mille, a great French saxophonist, professor of Paris Conservatory. So the truth, I am not sure which piece, which instrument was this originally intended. However, we know so far that Bozza took the melody, or let's say inspired by J.S. Bach's another piece called Pastoral in F major, BWV 590. And you get to hear exactly same melodic structure, same harmonic language. So probably the Bozza took the melody and ideas and quickly turned it into a very lyrical piece for each wind instrument. Now the title is Aria. What is aria? Aria is the term used in opera, so obviously it has to do with a singer. And aria by definition is a self-contained solo piece for a singer with accompaniment or without accompaniment. So the truth is, this is a vocal piece. And by just looking at the title, I get inspired already. That, okay, I'm supposed to emulate the quality of a singer. So that's giving me an idea of how I approach this piece as well. Now, after we have this historical background of composer and the piece, next step is to analyze the piece. Now, how do we analyze? Now, this is where it gets really sophisticated, because you need to have knowledge of music theory. So if you're a music major right now and studying at the college level, please take music theory seriously, because without understanding of music theory, you won't be able to analyze the piece. What's the point of analysis? Well, we want to look into the music from composer's point of view. Like, why did he use that specific harmony? Why did he use that and there? So we're gonna make sense out of composer's mind. Now, when we do the analysis, my recommendation is always go from the bigger picture, which is the structure of the music, and then go deeper and smaller. So I always start with what's the structure of this piece. Now, if you look into the piece and if you look into the aria, let's start looking to the score and see how many measures do we have entirely. Beautifully, we have 80 measures. Okay, so that's the length of this music. Now, next, what is the basic structure? And how do we know the difference between different sections? Well, you could look into from melodic perspective, but usually it's best to approach from harmonic perspective. Now, this piece starts with G minor. Now, when I say G minor, this is a concert pitch. Okay, so at the beginning, it starts from concert D. Now, of course, G and B flat is missing. I think what Bozza was trying to do is to make this first G minor chord coming from kind of far away. So he starts from fifth, add third, add the bass, and add even the seventh in the fourth measure. So that's what you see for the first four measures, is basically arrival of G minor seventh chord. Then saxophone enters. Now we're still staying in G minor. Now, first cadence that I can see is right here at measure 8, 9, 10, 11. This big 5-1 cadence. Okay, so that's a big moment. And that signifies that first phrase ends right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 measures left. Now what happens next? Where's the next cadence? If you go look, another big cadence happens. 2 measures after 2. Okay, another 5-1 authentic cadence. Okay, so that's a very good hint to have. And then what happens on the next page? Oh, again, I see a nice cadence right here at measure 24. Then finally, if you look carefully, at rehearsal number 3, we are moving into D minor. So since we are moving to D minor, I can say that at measure 27 or 28 might be the good place of a new section. So why don't we say this is a B section. So the first section from very first measure is A section. Now let's see. Let's continue. So now we're in D minor, and then it modulates to C minor at measure 34. Then we're going to move into B minor at measure 42. So we're moving around different keys. Measure 47, we're going back to C minor. And then it stays in C minor, but very chromatic, very diminished, and very kind of dark, crunched quality in rehearsal number 5. Then finally, we have return signal of G minor. We're going into G minor Now, is that the true? Rehearsal number 6, if you look carefully, yes, we have G minor chord. And for the rest of the piece, it stays in G minor. If you look at the melody, it's exactly the same melody as the beginning. So we could safely say that this is return of A section. So in the big picture, just by looking at the melody and harmony, we can conclude that this is a BA form, which is called ternary form. And ternary form is a very popular form for aria. Sometimes it's called song form even, because it was used in the operatic tradition to write aria, so by many composers. Now, since we have the big picture already, let's say the structure of the music, the form of aria is now A section going to B section and going back to A section. Now, how many measures did we have for the A sections? Let's see, beginning all the way to, I would say, since we have a nice 1 chord here, that should be the end of A section, which is measure 20. So I'm going to go back to my note and write 20 measures. Then we have something called transition, because we're transitioning into another key. How about we say we're transitioning into D minor? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 measures are transitioning into B. So I would say 7 measures as T transition. Now, how long is B section? Let's see, 31, 32, 33. So that's 33 in the B sections with various different keys. And then going back to A section, stays in G minor. How many measures do we have? 18, 19, 20. Voila. Exactly same as the previous A section. Now, if you look carefully, including the transition and B section, that's 40 measures. So if you look carefully, A section together has 40 and B section has a 40, total of 80 measures. That's the beauty of structure. And this is no coincidence. Composers always think about these structures, because to compose is like to build a building or a house. There needs a foundation, and they need to think about the foundation and what's the structure of that. So for Bozza's aria, its A and B sections are exactly the same proportion, which is quite beautiful. So that's what we hear unconsciously when we listen to the music. We actually get to hear these proportions. If it's a little bit off, we can feel instability of the compositional form as well. So sometimes composers do that on purposely, which was a very popular way to express in a romantic period. Now, this very proportional structure was popular from Renaissance period all the way to the classical period. So this is very common, but it's still nice to discover the beauty of the structure. Harmonic structure is also very important to understand. So in A section, we're G minor. In the return of A section, G minor. What about the B sections? Let's go here. We have D minor, then C minor, B minor, and C minor again. And then going back to the G minor. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 different kind of key structure as well. So that's the big picture that we have. Now, let's go back to the music and score. And after we analyze these details, we want to finally add a little bit of a personal taste to it so that it becomes your own interpretation. The first important idea is what's the length of one phrase. And normally we can tell by just looking at the saxophone solo part, but sometimes composers will trick you with different harmonies. So it's always good to follow the harmonic progression. Now if you looked at the beginning, the first harmony starts measure 5, right? And the first cadence happens 2 after 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 measures is one phrase. So that's the first idea. What about next cadence? Is 2 after 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So next phrase has 10 measures. So Bozza decided to elongate this idea. Now that you understand the length of first phrase, you want to make sure to express that. So the good way to create a phrase is a crescendo to crescendo. So we want to make sure to do the crescendo towards maybe around 1, because A is the highest note in this phrase, and then really come down at measure 11. That's the first phrase. What about the next phrase? Okay, so that's the length of phrasing of the first page in the score. Now let's look even deeper into what's happening with saxophone part and the piano part. Now when we enter the first note, our G, which is concert B flat, is not doubled in the piano part. So this is based on the concert C. It's going to be the 7th chord, okay, and it's not doubled. So our note is actually very important to be very prominent. So we want to make sure it says piano, but piano is only a volume. Piano carries also an emotional aspect to it. Piano could be sad, piano could be warm, piano could be soft, piano could be kind, piano could be gentle. Here, we want to make sure to enter clearly, because without our G, the harmony will be like in the 7th chord. So make sure to come in clearly with confidence, although it says piano. What about next long note? How about major 7th, F sharp? So considering the lowest note, the root is concert F, and our F sharp is concert A. So it's going to be the 3rd of the harmony. In a jazz intonation, if you want to make sure to be really in tune, the 3rd needs to be flatter than the equal temperament. So make sure this F sharp is aimed a little bit lower in terms of tuning. So it seems like most of the longer notes, every time we sustain it, tends to fall in almost the 3rd of the harmony. So we want to be careful with all these longer notes to be really in tune. If it's always sharp, you need to make sure to practice with tuner. You need to make sure to play with the piano and then practice the tuning. Now, whenever we have the cadence, cadentional moment, we want to make sure give a sense of release. So at measure 9, when we have this nice big cadence, this G, although this is 16 notes, I don't want to just pass it. I want to make sure to give emphasis on that G to signal the harmonic resolution. So that's very important to do. I want to demonstrate all these details and how it comes into style. But another big question that we need to ask is, what about the vibrato? So we know by historical background, this piece was inspired by J.S. Bach, which is a Baroque music. And it's a big debate that's going on. In the Baroque period, was there a usage of vibrato? There are many Baroque specialists believing that there wasn't vibrato. So if you believe and if you support that idea, one way to be really authentic is to use absolutely no vibrato. And that's okay if you believe in that's the inspirational style. You should stick with it because you have a valid reason to do so. For me, I cannot resist the romantic quality of this aria, and since the Bozza even wrote the title Aria, I want to be vocal. Singers, when I think about the singers, always use very musical vibrato. So personally, I want to use vibrato in this piece. Now, since it's vocal, I'm trying to emulate the vibrato of singer. And throughout my analysis and studies, I discovered singers tend to have a much faster vibrato. So usually it falls into 60 notes equal about 80 BPM of a vibrato. Yeah, not too wide, keep it really tiny. Okay, and let's try the beginning. Again, we want to make sure to come in clearly. Hopefully you could hear that I emphasized arrival of our G at measure 19 to signal the cadential moment, the harmonic resolution of 5 going to 1 chord. Now another tricky spot is measure 13, our high C. Again, this high C falls into the third of the harmony, and C tend to be really sharp, and it's also pianissimo. So I want to help you with alternate fingering. When you play high C, make sure to close down the right hand F sharp key. That will help you to bring the pitch down. The beauty is you could just come from E and then just leave the F sharp key, just release the other finger. And you should be able to achieve the tuning to be really correct. Now we are moving into the transitional spot. Now when you look into the measure 24, we have en animant un peu. That means gradually speed up. And here, the fingering matters. Now first we have B and C trio. So the best way to go is not to cross fingering, but use TC key. And then immediately we have A sharp. I like to use this bis key, closed by my second finger, like this. Again, that C sharp tends to be really sharp. It's also the third of the chord. Again, to bring the pitch down, you could close down the right hand F sharp or even F natural. In this case, I'm just closing the F sharp. Now make sure we are speeding up, but also rehearsal number 3, composer didn't write it, but it's probably implied, in my personal opinion, to bring back the tempo, back to a tempo. So we need to slow down right before 3, okay, to bring back us to the tempo. So it should go like this, from 21. very expressive, very romantic phrasing and expression. Now at rehearsal number 3, we have D, E, D, C sharp, D grace notes. And C sharp is also a very problematic note for saxophone. In this case, because it's piano and it's really vocal, I don't want to make it instrumental like mechanic. But I want to connect them better. So for this C sharp, here's the finger I use. Coming from D with octave key, let go of B and A, 1 and 2. And that should give you C sharp. Make sure to keep the octave key as well. To give you a nice and warm and connected phrasing. So. But what this composer is doing is using these conventional movement to move into another key. And the technique is called sometimes chromatic modulation, sometimes composer uses pivot chord modulations, and these are things you get to learn in the music school if you study music theory. Here, composer is using the chromatic modulation, the rehearsal number 3 and measure 34 as well. And we're moving into different keys. So you want to give a sense of direction that we are moving. I don't want audience to give a sense of kind of relaxation from this point, especially from 34. Okay, and that's going to be concluded in high D sharp for saxophone with loudest note fortissimo in B minor. And that's really painful, really shocking, big moment. So you want to make sure to hit that moment to be really dramatic. So from 34. Really dramatic. And there's a sense of release, harmonically speaking. Now, that D sharp is going to be the fifth of the chord. So it doesn't need to be too flat. You could just let it kind of project easily. I think composer designed that way to make this moment to be really bright and clearly indicates that's a climatic moment of this entire piece. That falls into measure 42, which is exactly in the center of the piece. So I think that's a very cool idea to see. Then we come back to another key, C minor, measure 47. Okay, so there's a sense of kind of calmness. And then from rehearsal number 5, it's a very chromatic harmony again and again and again. Okay, so it feels like we are lost. So let's give a sense of kind of directionless rehearsal number 5. Ending on F sharp, which is nice leading tone to next chord. And that's a moment of arrival. One thing you need to be careful is measure 54 and 56 has middle C sharp long note. And that C sharp also needs to be in tune, because that falls into the third of the chord as well. And my recommendation, my fingering, is octave, 3, and 5. It's a little buzzy, but gives nice warm quality with the pitch to be really in tune. Then, when we arrive, rehearsal number 6, measure 61, we're coming back with the same beginning. But when you look at the score, the harmony changes. Now, in the beginning, we had this second chord when we hit the first G. However, when we return of A section at measure 61, we have the G minor triad, the 1 chord, which makes it really feels like we came home and gives a sense of kind of calmness and safety. And on top of that, this B flat, our G, is doubled in the piano. So it's okay to be really pianissimo because you're not losing the chordal quality. So here, you could be as quiet, as gentle as possible. Sometimes you could use vibrato. You don't need to use vibrato. That's up to you. But make this moment absolutely special. And then harmonically, it's very, very stable. It stays in G minor. We're not going anywhere. We're staying home. Okay, so enjoy the sense of stability. So let's try to express that from 3 measures before. Now, one of the most difficult things in this section is obviously the tuning, because we are playing really sensibly and really quiet. So the tuning will go sharp and sharp. And this is towards the end of the piece, you're getting tired. So this is a matter of also endurance. That's why we need to practice every day and to keep our endurance to be higher. But also you could use help of the fingering as well. If, for example, measure 65, your A is very difficult to be in tune and sustain it, you could close down the F sharp key. Which helps you to bring the pitch down. Then we get into the ending. Now, this is a small trick, but at the ending when you hit the low E, yes, the decrescendo towards the piano. But here's my recommendation. Do not do the decrescendo too early. Wait until the piano hits the last chord at 80 and add the decrescendo. And that way it gives a really great sense of ending and security. So try that, and I'll show you in the last example when I play through with piano recording to see the effect of that sustained last note and then release at the very end. Now, one thing that I want to talk about is how to make this music even more expressive and emotional. And there's a technique called tempo rubato and agogic playing. Now, rubato is manipulation of time within the phrase. So we speed up and we slow down. So in the bigger picture, we don't change the time, but inside of the box of the time, we manipulate. Once you speed up something, you need to slow it down. Otherwise, it sounds very unnatural. And I guess that's a law of nature, law of conservation of energy. Music is invented and created by human beings in this place on Earth. And on Earth, we have gravity. Music innately have a sense of kind of coming back to the home base, right? That's what we have in harmonic language, tonic and dominant relationship, which defines the tonal quality. It can be applied to the phrasing too. And also, when you see something going upward, ascending motion, it's like a roller coaster. if you go to Six Flags, for example, if you go up, it slows down. And then if you're going down, gradually it speeds up because of the gravity. We could also use that idea to apply for the phrasing to be more rubato and more expressive. Another concept is called agogic playing. And agogic is much more smaller manipulation of time. It could just happen like one note or a few notes, or just top of the phrasing to be a little more expressive by taking time or by adding little expression to it. Just like what I did at rehearsal number 19 when there was a cadential moment on our G. Now let me show you how it goes from probably measure. Now let me show you how we can apply this idea and technique into expression. So from beginning, I'm going to play from beginning all the way up to number 3. Now, be careful, I did a lot this time, just to show you the example. But if you do it too much, it becomes too much. So you need to be careful how much is the right amount. That can be only defined by experience, defined by taste. And these are the subtle details of musicianship that we need to cultivate as we become more advanced and sophisticated. I think this time it was too much. I'd rather keep it simple. Now, another aspect of expression that you need to remember is expression is a contrast between non-expressivity all the way to very expressive. So it's okay to have absolutely simplified phrasing. We need that. Otherwise, it becomes just everything is too expressive, which is non-expressive. So it's also important to have a simplicity in the music, and that's something you want to think about. So in my case, I'm okay with simply just playing the rhythm and notes at the beginning. Music is going to develop later. So at the beginning, I just want to sustain the long notes. Now, another thing you need to be careful is whenever you play the longer notes, our default state is to have a decrescendo because we are losing our air, we're suffocating. So we want to just kind of, but the music wants to continue. Music has a musical direction. And the best singers can do this really well, to carry the phrase all the way. And that's what we need to aim. So whenever you have a longer notes, sustain it. That way it's going to make it sound more vocal, and because to be vocal means to connect the line with beautiful vibrato and beautiful tone quality. Now that we covered all the details of this piece, let's play through the entire piece with piano accompaniment. I found this piano accompaniment on YouTube by Alessandro, and this is a real pianist performing the piano accompaniment and very musical. So I'm just following his ideas, so some of the details may not be exactly what I wanted, but I think it's still beautiful interpretation. So enjoy this performance.